Now let me give you one example of how this, I'll give you a couple of examples of how it's being used. So these are RDP customer examples. We have case studies on each of them up on our website. And basically what attracted Mindtree, which is an IT outsourcer in India, was the ability to create rich dashboards without any coding. So we have a nice quote. The CIO also appeared in some of our launch videos. They're up on VisioToolbox.com. This is another example. This is an energy company up in North Carolina, and they had some classic problems, right? They wanted better documentation to support the business operations, right? The documentation was very minimal, and in fact, if you read the case study, they found that everybody thought they had different ways of doing things. And then when they really looked at it, they found they actually don't. They're really very, very similar. And so they ended up standardizing on business process modeling notation. And you can see they saved a lot of time. And they also improved communication from IT up to the businesses and up to executives. Because again, they all understood what they were looking at. There wasn't variation in the documentation. So we always have early customers before we ship. And we were very fortunate in Brazil to have, Google be an early customer. And so there's a case study up on our website, but you can see that their IT had a bunch of inefficiencies in their processes, not an uncommon problem. They used the tools that I just showed you very quickly and very quick results. I mean, you can see here that they think they've slashed their systems time by about 10% by doing this. So there's already value and examples of this in Brazil.
Some of our clients, they use like the Brain or Mind Manager for brainstorming,
Yeah.
And I know that you have templates for brainstorming also on Visio, but it seems that those tools are a little bit easier to use for brainstorming. Are you planning, maybe, I don't know, enhancing those capabilities or brainstorming capabilities on Visio? You know what I mean? Because
I know, I understand. Your point's, I agree with your point. So brainstorming, there's nothing new in 2010, as you may have found. It's still to be determined for 15, as we're still in the planning phase right now. But I would say the value of Visio, if we get into a brainstorming to brainstorming competitive situation against MindJet, they're pretty good, to be honest with you. It's a nice solution because that's the only thing they really do. So they better be better. And so the way to sell Visio against them is the diversity of what you can do. You can do many things in Visio. Brainstorming is just one. And also to have a platform story around Visio. So yes, I know what the Microsoft platform is, but we sometimes talk about Visio as a platform where IT can do network diagrams, process people can do process diagrams, brainstorming can be done, and so on. And so Visio then becomes a standard application, standard tool, standard platform that you can sell across the customer, where brainstorming then isn't the only thing they want to do. They can justify their sale by not paying for MindJet anymore, and it helps to justify our sale. Now, if it's just point to point, it's competitive. I think it is. So you want to broaden that discussion out. But it's a good question.
Some of our clients, they have very strict governance in terms of workflows, meaning only a few people can create the workflows. Once we say that on the departments, they can start creating workflows, how do you handle this kind of question? Because they are afraid of losing control. You know what I mean?
Well, you can. It's all a question of permissions. So if I understand your question properly, which is how do you maintain control and how do you prevent partners from doing workflows? If they don't have permissions to the site to publish workflows,
right,
then they're not able to. So I think it's really. It becomes a SharePoint question in terms of how do you control what people do on SharePoint as opposed to a Visio question. Does that answer your question?
It does make sense. I mean, it's usually on SharePoint governance, but since you're creating the workflows on Visio, I was wondering if you had any.
Yeah, basically I faced this question just trying to
sure.
with a customer, and basically what I explained to them was we are popularizing the creation of the workflow, but not to publish.
Right.
To publish, you can have your own IT governance.
Yeah, it still lives in SharePoint.
Yeah, it still lives in SharePoint. Just like on the BI.
So even you can, using Visio 2010 Premium, you can validate your your workflow, like you send me your workflow, I validate prior to, or see if there is an endless loop or something like this. I can create my validation rules, so you save time.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's exactly. Thank you.
Yeah, we just try and inherit whatever, within SharePoint, we inherit the permissions. As I said, within BI and the data, we inherit the permissions that whatever permissions you have the data source, we just use that. We don't try to add another layer on it.
Okay. Number one, how do you see ISVs selling solutions based on Visio?
Yeah, so I think there's two categories. That's a good question. Most of our ISVs are process-oriented today. So they take process diagrams and they either add to them, right? They add simulation to them, for example. They add more business process management, but usually then they add a server. So some of them build on top of SharePoint. Some of them have their own. That's the sweet spot so far. Now, you can also do facilities management. You can use the CAD capabilities and connect it to data, asset management, that sort of thing. I think that the real opportunity going forward, because of the SharePoint integration, is to leverage the SharePoint ecosystem and to use the Visio integration with that to enhance solutions, whether it's around process or BI or some other area. I think that pure Visio partners are important, but they tend to be fairly niche. And in fact, the more specialized the solution, I talked to a guy who they spent 6 months, they wrote the whole test matrix to test the wiring in Boeing 737 electrical systems in Visio.
Oh, wow.
Really cool solution. However, I said, wow, that's great, but how many licenses? 18. Like, how many people need to do this at Boeing, right?
Right.
So this is why I'm being very honest with you. I think the opportunity is SharePoint partners and getting them to leverage Visio services as part of more, and workflow as part of what they're doing. And hopefully designing those, where you can help is design them. We don't think this is niche. We think that lots of people should be doing Visio diagrams. Not lots of people should be doing workflow diagrams. I don't think that. But certainly Visio services in the BI. So developing solutions that take advantage of that democratization, if you will, of some of this, or the self-service elements. So you need people that know Visio, but Visio solutions that are too deep, they're not going to drive the kind of revenue that you want, or that I want, I believe, because you won't sell to enough people. So again, me being very honest, I try to be very,
Yeah.
I'm not here in a marketing role, I'm here to help you and hopefully get you excited.